Hi there, I'm Eve. Welcome to Open Indie, your podcast for all things indie gaming. In this episode, we dive into the creative world of solo game development with our guest PlistA, a talented developer from the Netherlands. PlistA is currently working on AFK Chess, an innovative game that combines the strategic depth of chess with the laid-back mechanics of Autobattlers, all wrapped up in a beautiful art style. Whether you're a chess enthusiast or a fan of Autobattlers, AFK Chess offers a unique experience that you can enjoy for free on Steam and in your browser. Join me as I talk with PlistA about his game journey as a game dev, the challenges of solo game development, and the inspiration behind this awesome game AFK Chess. All of this and more in this episode of Open Indie. Have fun listening, and as always, tell your friends and enemies about us. PlistA, so great that you are on the show today.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us. PlistA, as we are speaking now, currently on Steam and in the browser, we can play your game AFK Chess. How do you feel about your upcoming game?
With each day, I feel a bit better. At the time that we're speaking, today I will be releasing a pretty large content update that I've been looking forward to for a while.
Wow, nice.
I mean, I didn't really go into the game, but essentially, I'm really excited when I saw the design problem around the game that's sort of holding it back. And then I put in the time to actually add the content around that. And I just feel more confident that people will find it fun, or even more fun if they already find it fun. So short term, looking forward to that. But long term, I'm also pretty confident, I think. I'm not sure it will ever really aspire to the super large, successful games, but I'd be happy with even a moderate success here to show that game development is something that can be done. It can be a career in the game development.
Your game, it's super fun. I learned about it, I think, 3 weeks ago when I saw your post on Reddit. Then I contacted you, and luckily for us, you were available for this talk today. And since then, I've clocked in about, I would say, 10 hours into the game, and it's really, really fun. And I can't wait for the next update. But before we dive into the details, could you describe a round of your game?
AFK Chess is an Autobattler, and I guess many people probably are not familiar with that genre. It's essentially a type of strategy game where you manage an army of sorts in general, and then you watch this army fight in some way. And depending on the Autobattler, the fights are sometimes just regular units attack, damage, HP, stuff like this. But specifically in AFK Chess, the fights are quite literally chess fights. So you have two AIs, yours and the enemy's, and they play a round of chess. And basically, if you have a better positioning, if you have more pieces, ultimately, and lots of other stuff, you will win a battle. But even if you lose a battle, it's not over. You, depending on the mode, you have HP or you have wins and health to go through. And you have many rounds to build up your army. So you can go for economy and late game stuff, or you can go for early game fighting rounds. And so the idea in these types of games is not so much to focus on the battle itself, but really to look into these strategic elements, planning a way to scale your army more and more with each round.
What really struck a nerve with me is this tactical layer. It actually leans heavier into the chess part. You really have to be strategic about what kinds of units you are going to position where and how to cover those units.
Yeah, I should mention the game is, most Autobattlers are multiplayer, but not necessarily. In the case of AFK Chess, there's two modes. One that is fully like real-time multiplayer, where you're in the same lobby with 8, 16 people, however much. And you have a shared pool of resources that you fight over and build your armies up against each other. And you also have what is known as an async multiplayer, which is not necessarily a new thing, but let's say in the past 5 years, it started getting more popular with games like Super Autopets and Backpack Battles, where essentially you're playing against someone who already played their run. And the game is designed in such a way that it doesn't matter. You don't interact necessarily, you just fight their army. And this is like, especially much more interesting from the strategic point of view because everything you are up against will be something someone concocted. So if there's a meta, it may shift. It may, one day, some players have their own style, and then you, especially if the game is small, you can kind of tell who's who without even seeing the name. The idea is for there to exist a single player mode as well, which will much more dive into these tactical elements you spoke of, where right now, necessarily because it's primarily this async multiplayer, you don't want to have too much interaction between you and the enemy. There's not much room for it. But in a single player version, like that I imagine playing, it would be closer to let's say, a Slay the Spire sort of game where the actions you have, the cards you have, are more directly impacting the battle. So it would still be an auto-battler primarily, but much more leaning into this tactical element of chess and I guess these geometric patterns that emerge of, oh, this can attack here, if it moves there, I can attack that, and stuff like this.
I noticed that there were some people that you just recognized from the style that they used, because I remember one game specifically where there was one guy or girl that just put on pawns. So the whole battlefield of her side or his side was full with pawns. And I encountered this guy or girl, I think 2 or 3 times. And every time I encountered them, oh no, not this guy again, because it completely destroyed me.
The pawn strategy is very, let's say, interesting as a new player when you come across it. It feels broken, and a lot of the time there's this part after you finish a round where you can leave feedback about your run, about bugs or stuff like this, and I'd say about 5% of the comments are telling me that the pawns are too strong. And it's interesting because on one side I know that objectively it's not a good strategy. Like the top players, they never do this. It's not something that works. But at the same time, it is a strategy that works quite easily. So it is at least a strategy, and all the pawns are kind of economic pieces. It's kind of straightforward. Oh, I see a pawn, I buy a pawn. And even though it might not be the best strategy, it is still better than no strategy. And yeah, somehow people can very easily gravitate towards this. And I don't know if this is a good or bad thing, you know. Somewhat, I find it enjoyable that this is a thing people do. I don't like it that people necessarily maybe get a wrong impression if they're playing and they come across this multiple times. There needs to be tools in the game for them to understand why this is not necessarily the most broken strategy ever, like how to overcome this, what am I doing wrong? So yeah, it's like a problem from multiple sides that I'm enjoying thinking about here and there.
I grew up playing StarCraft, an example, and there you had the feared Protoss cannon rush or the circling rush. Right. And basically it's just cheese. If you don't know what you're doing, it's always easy. You stick to a strategy, but the best counter is to just get experience with the game. How did you come up with the idea for the game?
Depending on the amount of detail you want.
Give us the full amount of detail.
Oh, a long time ago, I think about 6 years ago or so, actually, maybe even longer than that. Every time, like I used to program since very early on. Like I remember programming my first macros in PowerPoint when I was 5 or something, making small games for my family. I mean, not actual games. It's like just point and click to uncover a card or something silly like that. But this grew later into Flash, ActionScript, and the whole Flash scene with the small games and stuff. And the game that I gravitated most towards was chess. So over the years, I have made a couple of different chess variants, and most of them obviously just for amongst friends. Even just regular chess programming, how to make, the board, the pieces move, just stuff like this. So I don't know. I'm not a huge chess player. I play it here and there, but I more enjoy watching it. I more enjoy seeing people talk about it rather than playing itself. But yeah, I just liked also making games around chess. And one of the early games I made was a variant of chess where you actually played, again, real-time chess with someone, but there was a fog of war. You can't see past what your pieces can see. And this was quite a few years back. It was maybe like 12 or so years back now. And I know that in recent years it actually came out as a mode in chess.com, and it's popular now. Back then, I was so frustrated that there was this variant of chess that existed. I didn't come up with it, of course. There were rules. I think it's actually German origin. I think the first time I heard it was a German name. And yeah, I just wanted to really play this game. And there was no way to play it. So I made like a version of it for my friends. And that's when I first started thinking, oh, okay, this could be something I release. I went through like a whole process of releasing it on the mobile stores like Google Play. But I was much less experienced at the time. I didn't really... Making games is such a multi-skill, multi-facet art form of like 10 different things you need to do to a really good degree to get anything worthwhile out there. So obviously I didn't go for further than just a few friends playing it, but the idea of wanting to make a chess game was there. And several years later, I started a small like incubator for startup incubator with some friends where we would make a few apps together. We actually launched a couple, some bigger, some smaller. But in the downtime between working on one of these projects, we were just kind of being in the office, thinking of what to do. And one of our colleagues at the time, I always said, like for all the years we worked together, he's like, we should make games, we should make games. And obviously it's not something you necessarily take seriously all the time because it's a long shot to make a game. It's much easier to make some business app, or solve some, quote, real problem. But yeah, one day we were just chilling in the office, and I had this idea it just seemed like I wanted to look for a game like it, because auto chess was popular at the time. It was coming out and massively being played, but ironically it had nothing to do with chess. It's just the name they used. And I was just looking for a game that I wanted to play once more. I wanted to play a version of this with chess pieces. Like I played regular auto chess, of course, and similar Autobattlers, but I really, really wanted this other game, and it didn't exist. I'm thinking, okay, everything exists, like every single thing you think of, someone did it before, right?
Very often, yes.
But no, in this case, I was surprised. And like the name it's right there, it's in the name, chess. Why does this not exist? And after confirm, because, oftentimes you don't see something on the first bat, but you then do a deeper search and you see, oh, someone did try it and they failed miserably because some parts of the idea just don't work. And then you don't do it yourself because you're discouraged or something. So after doing some research, we prototyped a bit. We made a very quick version where you just, like, none of the stuff that you see today. It's just literally just the chess pieces. You have some gold that you can spend and have some place to put on the board, and then you just watch them fight. And like no classes, nothing. And the essence of this was very fun. We played it a lot. I mean, not 10 hours every day a lot, but it was something that you could get together like 4 people and have a nice couple of hours with. And we kind of didn't really do much with this at the time. As I mentioned, we were working on this other project that seemed more perspective. But eventually that other project also, as most projects do, don't quite turn out the way that you hope. This chess game started like looking a lot more reasonable to us. I say us, so it's basically me and 2 other programmers at the time. And we began slowly working on it. And this would have been like towards the end of 2022, I think. At some point in the first, let's say, half a year of trying this simpler version out, in between and other tasks and stuff, we realized it's kind of all right. It could be a nice thing like Wordle, it's something you pop in once a day, solve a puzzle, that's an Autobattlers or something, but it didn't really speak to us on like a gamer level. It didn't really tickle the same kind of things where you like play a real game and enjoy strategy or something. So then we devised this much larger system that would involve classes, it would involve items, it would involve much more systems, much more synergy, just leaning much more into the standard Autobattlers stuff. And I'd say that's about when the current idea of AFK Chess started. So after a period of just messing around a bit with the idea of it, at some point we formulated a future for how we want this game to look.
While we are still talking about the features, what is your favorite feature in your game? It's a hard question.
I have a couple of things that I really like.
Okay, shoot.
Almost no games do multiplayer, a real-time multiplayer, especially indie. It's so rare because it's so difficult. And it's an insane thing to try and launch a multiplayer game. For anyone listening, just don't do it. I am quite a good software engineer. I work as a consultant for multiple big companies, and that's a big problem when you're approaching game design, because you feel like you can do everything. But just because you can do everything doesn't necessarily mean you should. And multiplayer for me, like programming that stuff, is a piece of cake. But that's not what it takes to make a game successful and fun and all this. So a huge amount of effort went into that. But to me, it's still that way of playing AFK Chess is leagues better. So when you're in like a room with like a lobby in Discord, 3-4 people, and you're playing this at the same time, it's just a completely different atmosphere, because you're no longer disconnected from your opponents. You're there, you're sharing the same pool of stuff. And yeah, so that's probably my most one of maybe my most favorite feature, put it like that. And second place would probably go to the replay system. So this is another very out there thing. Like usually, I guess most people would say their favorite feature is some fancy animation or something, I don't know. But for me, like having this replay system in games has always been the best thing. Well, I did play games that relied on it mostly. So for the most part, I was like a MOBA sort of gamer. And if you don't have replays there, I don't think the genre would exist, basically. And it helps so much. And again, it's something not many games will do. It's often not present because it requires a particular way of approaching the game programming to make a solid replay system. And it's understandable why someone would do it. It's just not worth it, But because both of these things are so not worth it to do, oftentimes, to me, they're more dear as features, because when they are useful, especially when someone appreciates that, like someone comes and says, oh, replay system, that's very cool. I feel very nice about that. But if someone, appreciates the art or a particular synergy, I still feel nice, of course, but not as nice. So I guess if I have to choose feature, it would be one of those two.
I really, really enjoyed that afterwards, since especially in the beginning, when you start out, it's not that clear, okay, what's happening, what's going on. You can just go back and then replay every step that was taken or every round that was taken. Really cool feature. So I really like it. What are your long-term plans for AFK Chess? So for our listeners, you can download the demo right now from Steam, and you can also visit afkchess.com and play the game in your browser, which is also a quite nice feature. But what are you planning in the foreseeable future for the game? Anything you can hint at?
Yeah, absolutely. So the long-term plan is to continue building out this multiplayer mode that is currently available, both to real-time and the async, with extra content and extra systems and mechanics. And for this mode, the idea right now is for it to be free. So even when the game comes out, the demo will always have the multiplayer mode, and much like it is now, everything will be available as soon as you start the game. There will be no microtransactions of that sort. But there would be paid single-player version of the game, which would have a sort of a more roguelike deck building element, where you'd have a run that is planned over in a different way, so it wouldn't be this constrained multiplayer approach. It would have a lot more systems that could interact with your pieces and how the run goes and so on. And we're thinking that people who would find that fun can pay for the single player, whereas the same systems and mechanics will exist in the multiplayer for people who want that instead. This may change in the future. I have no idea. Right now, this seems to be the most exciting way to go about making the game. There are a few examples that also kind of do similar monetization, with having a demo that is basically a solid chunk of the game and then the full game and some small amount of content on top. Our idea is to add a lot of content on top, but how that will turn out. And I guess this game also lends itself pretty well to cosmetic stores and stuff like this. The pieces can have different models, they could have different animations, they can have a different board. And I think the artist we're working with is pretty talented, so no doubt he'll be up to the task. That's something I look forward to, but obviously it's not something you can, like, especially for a small game with a small player pool, you can't really keep it up with just that. But we'll see as it goes on. How many people play will determine ultimately how the game should progress.
And I like that you already sketched out a path that the game could take, but you're also open to change it depending on how the reception of the game is. But the splitting up into single player and multiplayer parts, I think, is a really, really good idea. Everyone who's remotely interested in Autobattlers or in chess, or ideally in both, will find something to play there. Let's talk a little bit about you as an indie developer. You already shared a little bit about your background. You already told me that you started out with PowerPoint as first development tool, which is quite interesting because that's not the first time I heard it. It's really cool. Could you elaborate a little more about your developer career? When did you get started? Did you go to university? Did you teach yourself?
A bit of both, basically. A lot of it is self-taught. So a lot of the useful stuff in programming, you kind of have to teach yourself. Whatever school you go to, it will be opinionated in one direction, or sometimes even, as the case for most universities, is a bit outdated, perhaps. So let's say early on, I really enjoyed ActionScript and Flash. This is what I kind of got good at the time. And later on branched out a bit to C and OpenGL and these sort of ways of displaying stuff on the screen and making small interactive demos, not necessarily games, but just things that look nice on the screen. But yeah, we did have some like formal education. I think it was mostly Pascal and C++, but generally not enough that if you're really interested in it, it's not going to be enough, I guess, to really do something with it. So primarily I was on my own there, trying to learn from the internet, different tutorials, how to do this, how to make your box jump. I did go to university. I did complete different thing than I do in my career now, electrical engineering, specifically in signals and systems and biomedical sort of engineering. I liked my time in university, but again, not something that I feel helps me today in any respect. But it was nice to have a broader picture, nice to have a sort of engineering mentality. Like that is something that is very well taught in most engineering universities, how to approach a problem in that particular way.
You're speaking to a former plastics engineer.
Engineers.
Yeah, engineers. Lining out a task and then having a plan how to fulfill it. These are things that you can translate real nicely, I think.
Absolutely. And no shade to programmers who have not gone to university, but sometimes you get a bit of help in a different way. Sometimes you don't need it. But yeah, after university, I began a career in software development just as a programmer. And even during university, I did some freelance website design and stuff like this. But it's only after that I, kind of had to make a decision whether to go for a doctorate in academics or something like that, or to do something else. And ultimately, something else prevailed. And I just started doing regular development work, JavaScript at the time, TypeScript. And that's what I did for many years. I think about 9-10 years of that, I started doing my own startups halfway through, like different things that I wanted to see in the world, but they don't exist. Levels of delusion along the way. Each of these failures is kind of a good learning lesson in a way where, maybe when you're young, you think, oh yeah, I can make the next social media application. But then you see why you couldn't have, right? And if you're maybe a bit more, to use the word smarter, you could have probably learned that lesson without making the mistake, but it sometimes helps to make the mistakes as well. And all these mistakes have made me a very good software engineer. I could easily work that for the rest of my life and have a very comfortable living, but every couple of years, I try to do something, try something new, try a startup, and this time it's a game, and we'll see what it is next time, or if it's going to be game development the entire way through now. I'm not sure.
Right now, we're happy that you're stuck with game development. And speaking about game development, what moment in your life as an indie developer will you always remember?
The first thing that now came to my mind, it's not necessarily a big moment. It's a very small moment, technically. But one person got on our Discord one time and was asking some questions, how something works. Just a bit of maybe reporting a bug. I don't specifically remember that part. But I do remember that they said that they're having a lot of fun with the game and that they play that game on weekends with their dad. They play the multiplayer version. And that made me very happy. That such a small thing that, a person is enjoying with their family, and it happens to be my game. It's very, very touching. So that's, I guess, the first thing that came to my mind.
Beautiful.
I guess in general, releasing the game the first time is also a big one. We made a post on r/chess at the time, very bare bones version of the game, and I think that's the most viral post we made, accidentally, because a lot of people were kind of interested. So we had to close registrations.
Wow.
And that actually, that was an interesting moment. We didn't keep the velocity, of course. The game was not there, but still some people from then play today, and that was 1.5 years ago or something.
Cool.
And that was also an interesting moment where, for the first time, you're getting more people into this thing, they're trying it out, and lots of stuff happening everywhere, and it's hard to keep track of what's going on. But yeah, fun moment.
What would you say was the best part of developing your own game?
I really enjoyed the people I've worked with. I think that's in all the stuff that I've done over the years. It's mostly been enjoyable because of the people. So all these startups that I've done, I've once tried to do it myself, but it's just not the same. Like even if there's one more person with you working on something, it's a lot different. And here it's the same. So even though, yes, primarily it is myself doing most of it, all the programming, a lot of stuff, there's still a lot of people contributing behind the scenes and giving feedback, giving ideas, doing the art, play testing. Lots of this stuff is very important and really helps to have more eyes on the picture. And that's the part I enjoy the most when that happens. I would love for this to be something where I can grow a studio out of, like a proper, not just part-time contributing here and there, but just actually full-time employees, everyone.
And since I've already asked about the best part of developing your own game, the next question naturally has to be, what's the worst part?
Oh, easy. All the rest of it.
So anything in particular?
It's just so stressful. I recommend it to nobody unless they have even if you have a high tolerance for stress, which I do, I still don't recommend it. It's a lot of uncertainty. You really want to have some safety net of some sort. So if you're very young, absolutely go for it. Like if you're 18 and you know programming and you're living with your parents, make 50 games. Just do it, and one of them might be something that you can actually make a proper game out of it, sell to people, and be financially viable. But if you're not 18 and living with your parents, if you're a bit older, you really want to have a safety net, because even with a safety net, the amount of uncertainty that happens on a daily basis over every single thing that you have that comes in your head is potentially threatening to the future of the game. You really want to not have to worry about food. I mean, stuff like food and housing.
Which is a very important development tool as well.
Yeah, so I'd say the hardest part is the uncertainty and everything that it brings with it.
Let's talk a little bit about the team you're working with. So you already mentioned a little bit that you have a couple of friends or colleagues that help you out. But currently, would you define yourself more as a solo developer, or do you have a fixed team that you work together with?
It's hard to say. So I think it is kind of a solo dev thing. But at the same time, the contributions of other people are meaningful and they do put in the time. But there's only so much they can do. If it's someone who isn't a programmer, isn't an artist, isn't an all-in-one sort of package in an indie kind of game with a few people, you kind of have to do everything or do one thing really well, right? So there's two members that I started this game with who were initially part of this startup incubator that have since stopped doing projects with. I mean, this is technically one of the projects from it, but it used to be like a salaried sort of thing. Right now, I don't do it anymore. It's just technically myself there. So two of the members start there as like programmers and doing a bit of game design here and there. And we worked on that. But obviously, without, again, the safety net, as mentioned, that people can't really do it for a long time. It's something that you can do here and there, help out. But eventually, once you go find a job or do your own thing, people part ways. And yeah, so some of those people are still, giving these ideas. So two people, as I mentioned, are giving feedback, playtesting. And then there's the artist who is, of course, paid. And he's, I guess, the other person. Myself was like a regular, like weekly contributor to the project.
That's how I got to know your game, because you made this announcement that you overhauled the graphics of the game. And I think it was 3 months or something of work to get this polished state with the nicer looking graphics.
Yeah. So the 3 months it's maybe even longer than that, but it's also an incremental thing. Like I'm kind of looking at where it started to what it is now. The biggest difference is kind of in the past 3 months where, working with the artist has been really great. Like I can't stress that enough, how important it is for the game to look good. It's
what I learned over the years being in this indie game development scene. If you don't have a trailer that is nice to look at, it's really hard to stick out, even if you have a nice concept.
Yeah.
Do you still get any other support, let's say from publishers, funding your community or whatever?
Time, no. So not to say that I wouldn't like to find a way. I did try a Patreon at some point. I did try like a Patreon with a skin reward. It doesn't seem like something that can work out. I think something like that works if you have an extremely large audience, and then some people will give you that, to support you. But ultimately, it has to come down to you giving the people value for their money. And if you can offer 20 hours of gameplay for $5, $10, whatever, then that's what you should aim for. And right now, I could do it now, but I think the potential game I have in my mind could be a lot more value. So I can wait. I can develop this for some time more and just wait and see how it goes.
Since you're based in the Netherlands, is there any support you could get from them, or did you try reaching out to the state?
To be honest, I have not. I recently came across some YouTube channel, I forgot the name, that I believe is also from the Netherlands. And they did mention getting a grant from Netherlands or Belgium, I don't recall. And it was not that bad. It was something along the lines of, I think, 5,000 euros or something that you don't have to give back. It's kind of weird. It's decent, definitely. But another thing that I also saw from the same channel is the amount of paperwork. It almost feels like I could just work instead. And I'd support myself more doing that.
Something I also heard a few times. How's the indie scene in the Netherlands? Do you have any contacts there? Do you go to trade fairs or to smaller sites, meet with other indie devs, or do you work on your own?
Yeah, so for the most part, I do work on my own, but there is a really, really nice meetup that happens in Amsterdam every month there's like an indie meetup of indie devs or people who are interested in indie dev or just people who play indie games. It's a very informal thing. Meet at a cafe, have a few beers.
Nice.
20, 30 people. And yeah, I met some cool people there. Had some people play test my game there as well. It's very useful for sure. But even just to talk with fellow indies is very fun. So I haven't seen anything other than this though, which is kind of surprising. I think there's another one in Utrecht or something, but yeah, I would have expected more indie scene here, but not that much other than this particular meetup.
It's nice that you found something local happening once a month, you said. Do they have a website or something?
I can link the meetup.
I will put it in the description to this episode if you're interested and close to Amsterdam.
Yeah, no.
Okay, cool. So you would say that the Netherlands in general are a good place to develop games?
Well, I wouldn't know. I haven't game developed in another country. The one thing it's not got going for it, I'll give you that, is kind of expensive. So if you can find a cheaper option, again, going back on the safety net thing, or if you just already happen to live in the Amsterdam with parents or something. But if you plan to move here to indie dev, I don't know if it's the best place. I think the best place is where you have people with whom you can work with, and I don't know where I'm going with this answer, but it's nice for this particular event. But other than that, I haven't noticed.
Thank you so much for joining us at Open Indie and for your time.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much for the talk.
Yeah, likewise. And I'm really looking forward to see what AFK Chess has to offer in the near future. And at least you won 2 new fans for your game. We're really looking forward to what the future brings to it. And we wish you all the best.
Yeah, and all the best to your podcast. This is really professional. I gotta say, I really enjoyed my time here.
Thank you very much.